Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming OCS exams happening in February 2026. My name is Nicholas and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for OCS at TCS. So let's look at the session plan. First things first, I'm going to share some insights about why students fail. Some of you who are joining us might have failed the previous OCS examination. So I'm going to highlight what type of issues these type of students fail and what you need to do to avoid each type of pitfall. And also, I'm going to share a 3-week study plan with you or a retaker-focused study plan so that you know what you are supposed to do in the upcoming 3 weeks with the intention of increasing your chances of passing in February 2026. And all these things will be followed by an F1 masterclass. I'm going to take you through the syllabus elements and then direct your attention towards one of the questions taken from OCS Mock 3. And also, I will be conducting a Q&A session towards the very end of this webinar as usual. All right, so let me quickly remind you of the upcoming workshops we have scheduled for you. So similar to what we are doing in today's session, I'm going to conduct a P1 workshop next Sunday at 10 GMT or 10 AM UK. And in this workshop, similar to what I'm going to do in today's workshop, I'm going to take you through the P1 syllabus and at the same time conduct a masterclass focused on one of the mocks which we have shared with you already. And also, I will be conducting a workshop and a masterclass focused on your E1 syllabus on the 25th of January at 10 AM UK. And in the final workshop, which happens just 2 or 3 days before your examination, I'm going to share last-minute tips with you to make sure that you are capable of walking into the exam with a high level of positivity, because as per the CIMA examiner, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your skill set, then you can easily pass this exam. So I hope you will attend these workshops without fail, which is the best way to keep tabs about your performance. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can get them addressed at each of these upcoming workshops. All right, so let's look at what you need to do to pass in the upcoming OCS sitting. So first things first, before you take steps to really, conduct your preparations, you have to be involved with a personal reflection. You need to diagnose the reasons what led to a failure in the previous sitting. So you have to be honest with yourself, dedicate something like 10 to 15 minutes of your time and take out a piece of paper and write down what went wrong at the examination, and at the same time write down what went wrong in terms of preparation. So in a little while, I'm going to talk about common reasons which leads to a failure. So when I'm taking you through these points, try to figure out whether you faced the same type of problems, and focused on each problem, I'm going to highlight what you need to do to overcome these issues. So I hope when conducting your preparations this time, you will change your strategy, because most students end up failing not because they are clueless of concepts or application, but because they do not stick to an appropriate study process and they do not have access to proper exam standard and pre-seen specific study material. So first things first, you need to diagnose the reasons which led to a failure and address them this time. You have to fix all your problems before walking into your examination. If not, you will keep repeating the same mistakes, and when you repeat the same mistakes, you will get the same type of marks in the upcoming OCS exam. And it makes sense to refer to the mock exams, suggested answers, and answer plans which we have developed and shared with you, so that you can gain an in-depth understanding of how each syllabus area can be tested. And at the same time, you will realize how you should structure your answers, what type of points you need to include concerning each syllabus area, and at the same time, how many points you need to include. All these things can be figured out if you go through our mock exams, the suggested answers, and especially the answer plans. So in a little while, I'm going to conduct a masterclass, and when doing so, you will hopefully realize how important it is that you gain access to these answer plans, which is going to be extremely beneficial when it comes to learning theory and application. And at the same time, when conducting revision, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans on your own. So, you can revise easily when you have access to these study resources. And the action plan is to work smarter than the previous attempt. So, last time when conducting preparations, you might have faced some hiccups. So the best way to avoid all these issues, overcome all these issues, is to stick to the 3-week study plan, which we are going to share with you in a little while. So that's what you need to do. And then let's try to figure out common reasons which leads to a failure. So the biggest problem faced by students is the fact that they just practice 2 or 3 mock exams before walking into the examination. And this is quite normal when you look at students, especially those who are coming through the FLP route. So under the FLP route, you have you have access to some videos as well as reading material, competency exams, and 2 or 3 mock exams. So students think that simply by watching these videos, simply by reading through the articles as well as completing the competency exams and completing just 2 or 3 mocks, they can easily pass their examination. But when the results are out, you usually end up scoring something less than 70 marks. All right. So the biggest problem is the fact that students think that they can simply pass this exam by attempting just 2 or 3 mocks. However, if you had gone through past exam variants or past papers, you would have seen that the examiner develops 6 different variants or 6 different papers focused on each pre-seen document. Why is the examiner developing 6 variants or 6 different papers with the prime intention of covering the entire syllabus? So when the examiner is developing 6 papers with the intention of covering the entire syllabus, when you are relying on just 2 or 3 mock exams, definitely you are walking into the exam with knowledge gaps. So this is the biggest problem out there. So this time when conducting your preparations, if you are thinking of sticking to the same process, thereby attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams, you are going to repeat the same type of mistakes. You are going to walk into the exam with knowledge gaps. And when you have knowledge gaps, you are not going to pass this examination, because as I've mentioned earlier, the operational case study is highly technical. 85% of the questions are intended to test your theory knowledge. So if you do not know how each syllabus area can be tested, then you are going to struggle at your exam. For instance, if you're coming through FLP, you would have watched videos concerning activity-based costing. All right. So once you watch these videos and complete the competency exams, you will think that you have a sound knowledge of activity-based costing and how it can be tested at the examination. However, if you look at the past variants or past papers concerning the past 10 years, the examiner has a tendency to test activity-based costing in 4 different angles. So when conducting your preparations, you have to be conversant about each of these angles, how ABC related knowledge can be tested, and therefore how you should approach each type of a question tied to ABC. So if you are attempting just 3 mock exams, you are getting conversant with one of the angles concerning activity-based costing, which can be tested at the exam. Whereas at the exam, if you get some different type of a question tied to ABC, you are definitely going to struggle. So at the exam, it is not only about explaining what activity-based costing is. Instead, it is all about applying your knowledge concerning ABC, which you have gained via your P1 syllabus. However, when developing your answer, you need to make sure that you are addressing the requirement at hand, and at the same time you need to make sure that you are developing an answer which is totally aligned with unseen info. So that is why practicing just 2 or 3 mocks is one of the major problems which leads to a failure. So this time when conducting your preparations, you have to make up your mind to attempt 6 mock exams and conduct revision focused on the same 6 mock exams. If not, you are going to fail once more. Okay. when the examiner is developing 6 papers focused on each pre-scene, when you are simply conducting preparations focused on just 3 papers, you are definitely walking into the exam with knowledge gaps. If you have knowledge gaps, you cannot pass this examination. And secondly, there are issues with answering technique. Most students don't know how to develop answers, and therefore they run out of time at the real examination. So the answering technique and time management are intertwined. So we have taught an answering technique in the 3rd webinar. If you missed it, please go watch the recorded version, because most students, what they do is right after reading through the scenario, they start typing out their final answer without spending some time to plan their answers. So as per TCS's methodology, you are supposed to spend 5 minutes of your time to read through the scenario, and then dedicate 20 minutes of your time to plan the answers concerning all subtasks which appear within a section. And then the remaining 15 to 20 minutes of your time should be dedicated towards expanding the answer plan in paragraph form. So I explained all these things in depth in the 3rd webinar. I'm going to highlight these things when I'm conducting the workshop or the masterclass rather, focused on an F1 related question. So if you do not know an answering technique, then you are definitely going to run out of time. And at the same time, you are not taking steps to develop an answer which is aligned with the requirement. If your answer is not aligned with the requirement, you are not going to get any marks at your examination. So it's essential that you practice each mock exam under exam conditions with the prime intention of practicing your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. I've already taught you these 3 techniques in the previous webinars. If you missed them, please go watch them, learn these techniques, and implement them or practice them whenever you are attempting your mock exams. Because when you are trying this technique for the first time, although I'm asking you to develop an answer plan within just 20 minutes, when you try to do it for the first time, you will take 35 to 40 minutes to plan your answer. You will definitely run out of time. You will be exposed to stressful situations. I want you to face all these problems when conducting your preparations rather than facing them for the first time at your real examination. Because when you face these problems right now, when you know that you are struggling with the answering technique, when you know that you are running out of time, which leads to stressful situations, you will take steps to overcome these issues when conducting revision, because all these problems can be fixed as long as you are disciplined enough to practice the mock exams under exam conditions and conduct revision focused on the same mock exams. So most students run out of time. If you run out of time, you cannot pass this examination. Why are students running out of time? Because they do not stick to an appropriate answering technique. And also, when students are clueless of an answering technique, there's a tendency for them to spend a lot of time in the first subtask. And when they are in the second or the third subtasks, they do not have time to attempt them. So all these things can be avoided if you stick to the answering and time management techniques which we have taught you in the 3rd webinar. And also, as I mentioned earlier, students do not practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. So at the exam, you have to attempt 4 sections, one after the other across 3 hours. However, when attempting mock exams, students never attempt mocks under exam conditions. So when attempting a mock exam, students have a tendency of attempting section 1 of a mock exam today, section 2 tomorrow, section 3 day after tomorrow, and likewise. But at the exam, you have to sit in one place across 3 hours and attempt the 4 sections one after the other. And during the exam, you would have understood this, that especially towards section 3 and 4, fatigue sets in. When fatigue sets in, you encounter additional levels of stress, and these additional levels of stress leads to brain freeze. And when you are experiencing brain freeze, you tend to panic. So when this is the case, you are definitely going to develop half-hearted answers or rushed answers. And as you know, rushed answers or half-hearted answers won't carry good marks at the examination. So it's essential that you practice under simulated exam conditions when attempting each of the 6 mock exams. That is why we have developed an exam platform, which is the exact replica of the Pearson VUE system on which you are supposed to attempt your real examination. So we have given you this opportunity to master and practice your answering time management and stress management techniques under real exam conditions. So attempt each mock under simulated exam conditions. This is the best way to figure out what type of shortcomings you face when attempting mocks under exam conditions. It's best, as I mentioned earlier, it's best to face all these problems right now rather than facing them for the first time at your real examination. And also, those who score less than 70 marks end up achieving a low score, given the fact that there is a lack of technical knowledge especially concerning F1 and P1 syllabi. So, as you know, as I've mentioned throughout this webinar and workshop series, this paper is totally focused on your P1 and F1 syllabi. So, if you have knowledge gaps concerning P1 and F1, then you'd have to repeat this examination. So, if you sat for the exams which happened in August 2025 or November 2025 and ended up scoring less than 70 marks, then you should know for a fact that you are displaying knowledge gaps. And if there are knowledge gaps, you are not going to pass this exam, given the fact that all your conceptual knowledge is heavily tested at this stage. If you are at the MCS or SCS stage, if you come up with logical answers, still you can pass, but not at the operational case study level, because at this stage, you are not playing the role of a decision maker. Instead, you are supposed to assist decision makers. So you are supposed to explain how each conceptual element can be adopted within your chosen company. And when doing so, you need to consider what's highlighted within each unseen as well. So your application skills are tested on top of your theory knowledge. So it's essential that you get your bearings with how each syllabus area can be tested, because if there are knowledge gaps, you are going to struggle at your exam. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, when attempting mock exams, I mentioned the fact that the examiner has a tendency of testing activity-based costing in 4 different angles. And when attempting mocks, if you had seen just one single question or one single angle concerning activity-based costing, you will feel confident before walking into the exam. But if you get a totally different variant, which is totally different to what you have seen within your mock exams, then you are going to definitely lose a lot of marks. So when conducting prep, you have to take steps to learn all conceptual elements. You just have 3.5 weeks at your disposal. So, you cannot waste time to watch videos, read, articles and learn theory on your own. Instead, the best approach is to learn theories focused on the 6 mocks which we have developed, because when you go through the answer plans, you can easily figure out how to approach each type of question and also how to structure your answers. So don't waste time to watch videos, read stuff on your own, because when you learn theory in isolation and when you try to figure out application, you are definitely going to waste a lot of time. You can learn theory and application via the answer plans easily. So don't watch any videos. Don't try to figure out things or theories or application on your own. We have already shared some resources with you with the intention of ensuring that you are capable of learning all conceptual elements and significantly improve application skills within just 3.5 weeks. And there are shortcomings concerning application of knowledge as well, as I mentioned earlier. So in order to learn theory and application, refer to the mock exams and go through the answer plans and take steps to redevelop answer plans. I'm going to explain all these things in depth in a little while when I'm conducting the masterclass concerning one of our mock exams. And also, students fail because they rely on past exam variants or past papers. This is a major problem, especially those who are coming through FLP. They think that, okay, I'm supposed to attempt 6 mocks. So I already have 3 mock exams via the FLP portal. So I can gain access to some additional mock exams by referring to past exam variants. However, the problem is the fact that past exam variants are based on a totally different pre-scene or a totally different company. So when this is the case, unless and otherwise you have a sound knowledge of each conceptual element, you are going to struggle to understand the logic behind the answers, because the logic behind the answers as well as the type of questions which can be tested are totally different compared to what happens with SumTrix when you are referring to a totally different type of a pre-scene. So don't waste time to go through past exam variants, because these variants are based on a totally different pre-scene. If you want to gain an in-depth understanding of the logic behind each answer concerning previous variants, then you need to have a sound understanding of a previous pre-scene. So when you have just 3.5 weeks at your disposal to conduct preparations, you do not have time to go through a totally different pre-scene, analyze it, and figure out the logic behind the answers which appear within past exam variants. So don't rely on past exam variants. If you do so, you will end up failing. Some of you, when I had a chat with you, yesterday and day before yesterday, some of you said that you guys relied on past exam variants and ended up scoring just 50 odd marks at the examination. So don't repeat the same mistakes. Instead, when conducting prep, you should focus your attention towards conducting preparations based on pre-scene specific and exam standard study material. And also, students do not revise. Students think that simply by attempting mocks, they can pass this examination. That is not the case. When attempting mocks under exam conditions, your prime objective should be to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. However, you need to revise in order to learn theory and improve your application skills. So you should learn how you should structure your answers, what type of points you need to include concerning each syllabus area, and how many points you need to include. All these things can be decrypted or understood when you are conducting revision. Just because, let's assume you have access to our 6 mock exams, just because you attempt the 6 mocks, you cannot pass the exam. Instead, you have to take steps to revise and cement your knowledge. So in a little while, when I'm explaining the 3-week study plan, I'm going to explain what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to master each mock exam by sticking to a 3-step process. So rather than just attempting the 6 mock exams, you have to conduct revision focused on the same 6 mock exams with the prime intention of improving your answering technique. Because if you improve your answering technique, then you are definitely going to score extremely good marks at your real examination. So you have to look at improving the quality of your technique, answering technique. So that is why revision is essential, because when you are attempting mocks, there's no time for you to learn anything. You are supposed to sit in one place across 3 hours and operate in a time pressured environment. You are trying to give your best type of answers, but once you have attempted a mock, you have to see whether you have done a good job or not. You have to see whether you were capable of developing high quality answers. You have to figure out whether there are shortcomings in the way in which you have structured your answer or approached a certain conceptual element. So that's why it's essential that you, right after attempting a mock, it's essential that you focus your attention towards revision, because without revision, you cannot improve your answering technique. If so, you cannot improve the quality of your answers. And if when you are not achieving quality, you are not going to pass this examination comfortably. And so lack of evaluation is a problem along with a lack of revision. So you have to take steps to not just to attempt the mocks, but to revise and cement your understanding. So in a little while, I'm going to explain how we are supposed to achieve these things, thereby sticking to our 3-week study plan. And also, most students fail because they do not adhere to a study plan. So that is why we shared a study plan right at the very first webinar. Again, we shared a study plan last week, and we are going to share a study plan once more, especially focused on retakers or those who want to conduct their preparations within just 3.5 weeks. because most students end up conducting preparations in the final 2 weeks. When this is the case, you do not have enough time to conduct revision. You will have time to attempt all 6 mocks, but as I mentioned earlier, it's crucial to revise. So when you do not have time to revise, then you are going to repeat this examination. So it's essential that you stick to the study plans which we have shared with you. I know for a fact that some of you are already sticking to the study plans which we shared. Kudos to you. And those who are planning on sitting for February but are yet to start preparations, you still have time. If you stick to our study plan, if you are disciplined enough, you can pass this exam comfortably. So in a nutshell, you have to change your preparation strategy. If you are planning to attempt just 2 or 3 mocks and pass this exam, you'd have to repeat. Instead, focus your attention towards attempting 6 mock exams, just like the examiner intends you to do. And also, when attempting each mock exam, do it under exam conditions with the prime intention of practicing your answering time management and stress management techniques. If so, you will manage your stresses properly on the day of the exam. You will never run out of time, and you will develop well-structured, high-quality answers. And also, you have to learn all conceptual elements, how each conceptual element can be tested, and also significantly improve your application skills. Both these elements can be fixed when you are conducting revision focused on our answer plans and redeveloping answer plans. And also, don't rely on past exam variants, and always make sure to stick to a study plan and conduct revision with the intention of improving the quality of your answers. If so, you are going to gain extremely good marks at your exam. So you might have faced these pitfalls when conducting your preparations last time. Stop blaming yourself. Do not be demotivated, because you cannot change the past. You can only change the present. So currently, take the necessary steps to overcome or avoid all these shortcomings when conducting preparations, because the individual who ended up scoring the highest amount of marks at TCS in the November 2025 exams started just like you, just 3.5 weeks before the examination. So if this individual who came through FLP started just 3.5 weeks before the exam and ended up scoring 119 marks, you can achieve the same feat if you are disciplined enough to stick to the study plan. All right. So having said that, I'm going to direct your attention towards the OCS retake plan. So before I explain the plan, I want you to understand how you are supposed to improve your theory knowledge and application when attempting each mock exam. So when attempting each mock, stick to this 3-step process. Step number 1 is to practice. So as I mentioned earlier, practice each mock exam under exam conditions via the exam platform which we have developed, with the prime intention of practicing your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. When practicing each mock exam, the objective is not to improve your knowledge. The objective is to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques under real exam conditions. Once you are done with this practice, move on to the second step, which is to learn. You can easily learn the logic behind each answer. You can easily learn how to approach each conceptual element and how to structure your answers by going through our answer plans. So read through the answer plans right after attempting mocks. Read through the answer plans. Then you will realize how you should have approached each type of question, how you should have structured your answers, and what type of points you should have included in your answers to gain the best amount of marks. And after you have learned these elements, after you have learned theory and application, practice on your own, thereby revising, which is the third step. Take steps to redevelop answer plans with the intention of cementing your knowledge. So an answer plan typically should look something like this. By going through an answer plan, you will realize how you should structure your answer, what type of points you need to include concerning each syllabus area. So after you have learned these things, keep this answer plan aside and redevelop an answer plan on your own. Once you have redeveloped your answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCS's to further refine your understanding of how you should structure your answers. So when you revise, when you take steps to revise, then this is when you are taking steps to learn theory and application. You are not just learning theory and application, you are taking steps to cement your knowledge, because you are trying to redevelop answer plans on your own. So if you stick to this 3-step process, it's as if you are going through each mock exam thrice. And when this is the case, you are practicing your answering, time management and stress management techniques. You are learning theory and application, and at the same time, you are cementing your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans. If you stick to this 3-step process, by the time you are done with the 6 mock exams, you will understand how each syllabus area can be tested, how you should approach each syllabus area, how you should structure your answers. And when this is the case, you will get extremely good marks at your real examination. So on the WhatsApp group, you might have seen that almost all of our students ended up scoring more than 100 marks. They achieved this simply by sticking to this 3-step process. So you can achieve this as well if you are disciplined enough to stick to this study plan. All right, so after this session, I'm going to share this study plan with you via the WhatsApp group as well. So let's try to figure out what you are supposed to do on a weekly basis. So in week number 1, you have to kickstart your preparations by watching the pre-scene analysis videos so that you'd gain a good understanding of the internals and externals of SumTrix. Because if you have knowledge gaps concerning what your company is up to, then you are definitely going to struggle at your real examination. So watch the pre-scene analysis videos. Don't try to evaluate the pre-scene on your own, because first things first, I have to be honest with you, you do not have the capabilities to evaluate the pre-scene on your own. And at the same time, if you evaluate it in an inaccurate manner, then it will impact the quality of your answers adversely at your real exam. So forget about evaluating the pre-scene on your own. Simply watch the 4 pre-scene analysis videos. Then within 3 hours, you will gain an in-depth understanding of the internals and externals of your chosen company. And then before you start mock attempts, you have to learn answering and time management techniques, which were covered in the 3rd webinar. So if you missed the 3rd webinar, or if you're yet to watch the recorded version, please go watch the recorded version, which can be accessed via our YouTube, as well as YouTube handle, as well as our student dashboard. And then you should direct your attention towards attempting mock exams. So since you have just 3.5 weeks, you have to attempt 2 mock exams per week. So attempt mock number 1 via the exam platform, which is going to take 3 hours of your time. And as I mentioned earlier, the objective of attempting mocks under exam conditions is to practice your answering, time management and stress management techniques. So that is step number 1. Then step number 2 is to learn by reading the answer plans concerning mock number 1. So take about 1.5 hours of your time and read through the answer plans. Try to figure out how to structure each answer. Try to figure out the logic behind each answer, how each conceptual element can be tested, how you should work in terms of application. So all these things can be learned when you go through the answer plans. So that's the second step in which you are supposed to learn. And once you have learned theory and application, test your knowledge by revising, which is to redevelop answer plans on your own. When you're trying to redevelop answer plans, again, it will take 1.5 hours of your time. So similarly, focus on mastering mock number 2 by focusing on mock number 2 thrice before moving on to mock number 3. So in week number 2, similar to what I highlighted, you are supposed to attempt 2 mock exams, namely mocks 3 and 4, and conduct revision focused on the same 2 mock exams. And in week number 3, you are supposed to master mocks 5 and 6. And as you can see, if you stick to this plan, you are not just attempting the 6 mock exams. Instead, you are going through each mock exam thrice. So once you're done with this process, it's as if you have gone through these mocks 18 times over before you walk into the exam, which is enough and more practice for you to get extremely good marks at your real examination. And if you stick to this study plan in the exam week, you should only dedicate your time towards revision. So read through the answer plans concerning mocks 1 to 6. When you read through these answer plans, It's as if you are going through the entire syllabus one last time before walking into the examination. So rather than having to go through pages and pages of short notes or study notes and whatnot, simply read through the answer plans. Then you are reminding yourself of how each syllabus area can be tested. And at the same time, you are reminding yourself about how to deal with application. And once you are done with these practices, stop work ideally 2 days before the examination and start resting, because as I mentioned earlier, if you are well rested before the exam, you are going to be well rested on the day of the exam. If you are well rested, you will come up with the best type of answers, because at this exam, the examiner is not just testing your theory knowledge and application, the examiner is also testing whether you can manage stressful situations. So that's why I do not want you guys to be stressed before the exam. So you will be stressed before the exam if you start preparations just a week or two before the examination. Rather than doing so, start right now, start from Monday, and stick to this study plan, because you need not worry about learning theory, covering all conceptual elements. Everything is covered by us, everything is handled by us, because via the 6 mock exams, we have covered 72 subtasks in total. So if you are coming through FLP, yes, you do have access to 2 or 3 mock exams. Within these 2 or 3 mocks, just 27 to 30 subtasks are covered. When this is the case, if you look at our mock exams, via these 6 mocks, we have covered 72 subtasks in total. Why 72 subtasks? Because we intend to cover all syllabus areas to make sure that you are walking into the exam without any knowledge gaps. So when you go through the mock exams, you are getting your bearings about how each syllabus area can be tested. Not just that, you are learning theory and application, thereby learning how each syllabus element can be tested and how you should figure how you should practice your application skills. And once you have completed these 2 elements, then you are taking steps to cement your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans as well. So stick to this process. If you do so, you can gain extremely good marks at your exam. That is why, simply by sticking to this process, our students ended up scoring more than 100 marks when the pass mark was just 80. All right, so I will be sharing this document with you. And having said that, before I direct your attention towards the F1 Masterclass, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the OCS page. If you're yet to create a free user account, click on this button and create one. Once you have created a free account, you'd gain access to our student dashboard. Via our student dashboard, when you are on our student dashboard, click on My Courses, and in front of OCS Free, you'd see an Access Content button. Please click it. And under the Videos tab, you'd gain access to the recordings of the weekly webinars and workshops we have conducted. If you missed our previous webinar, in which I highlighted how you can manage your stress levels, please watch this recorded version. And if you're yet to learn answering and time management technique, please watch the recorded version of the 3rd webinar. And under the study material tab, you'll gain access to the answer plans of the mini mock exam, the pre-seen mind map, and the syllabus coverage document. And under the mocks tab, you'd gain access to the questions and suggested answers of mock exam 1. And under the exams tab, you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1 in its entirety under exam conditions via our exam platform, which is the exact replica of the Pearson VUE system. So you can practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques under real conditions if you create a free use account, because you can attempt these things or practice these elements when attempting mock number 1. All right, so these are the free resources on offer. And if you are interested in investing on our paid content, check the sample material before you do so. And if you're yet to join our OCS WhatsApp group, click on this button and join it. Via this group, we will keep you guys informed of the weekly webinar or workshop commencement dates and times. And at the same time, if you have any questions, I'm always there to help you. And we are sharing hordes of free resources via this OCS WhatsApp group. And talking about what we offer 2 packages, the Essential course and the Value course. The Essential course is designed for those who have completed their OTQs. Since you have completed your OTQs, you have already learned your all conceptual elements. So when conducting preparations, it simply comes down to practicing your application skills. So under the essential course, you'd gain access to the recordings of all webinars and workshops, 3 mock exams with suggested answers. Why just 3 mock exams? Because if you're coming through the OTQ route, you have already learned theory. It's simply a matter of brushing up your application. You can easily achieve this by attempting just 3 mock exams. And you'd also gain access to pre-scene analysis videos, the annotated pre-scene, the industry and financial analysis slides. Let me quickly show you what these resources look like. So this is the annotated pre-scene. As you can see, we have come up with tutor annotations with the intention of summarizing the entire pre-scene so that you can gain an in-depth understanding of what appears within the entire pre-scene document. Also, as part of these annotations, we have highlighted the probable exam scenarios which can be tested, and tied to these probable exam scenarios, we have highlighted the syllabus elements which can be tested. And when developing our mock exams, we have made sure to cover all these elements, the syllabus areas as well as probable exam scenarios. And similarly, we have conducted an industry analysis, and these set of slides are divided into 4 main parts. In the first part, we have defined your industry. In the second part, we have explained about what happens concerning your real life industry, and we have also explained the industry trends, and based on these trends, scenarios can be thrown at you at your real exam. And towards the very end, concerning 2 real life companies, we have explained how 2 real life companies operate within your chosen industry. And also we have evaluated the financial statements. So we have evaluated the SOPL, the SOFP, as well as the statement of cash flows. And we have made sure to keep things simple so that you can easily understand what appears within each financial statement. And also we have conducted a ratio analysis, thereby explaining what actually happens within your chosen company concerning profitability, activity, gearing, and liquidity ratios. So all these resources come with the essential course, and also under the essential course, you would gain access to the top 10 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable syllabus elements which can be tested at the exam. You will also gain access to a case study familiarization kit. Once you read through this kit, within 10 to 15 minutes, you can gain an in-depth understanding about the technicalities behind your OCS exam, and also you'd gain access to a tutor-managed live chat. So the essential course is priced at just £99. And talking about the value course is intended for those who are coming through FLP and those who had failed the exam previously. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and issues with application. So with the intention of teaching you all conceptual elements, teaching you the entire syllabus, and at the same time, making sure that you learn application easily, we have included some additional resources under the value course on top of what appears under the essential course. So under the value course, we intend to cover the entire syllabus. That is why you'd gain access to all 6 mock exams with suggested answers. As I mentioned earlier, we have taken steps to cover 72 subtasks in total so that you'd gain an understanding of how each syllabus area can be tested. And also, you'd gain access to the OTQ revision cards after attempting each mock exam. If you feel that you need to revise your knowledge concerning conceptual elements, you have the opportunity of referring to the OTQ revision cards. By doing so, you can brush up your knowledge in a jiffy. And you'd also gain access to the online mock exam platform on which you can attempt all 6 mock exams under exam conditions, which is the best way to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. And also, the value course comes with answer plans concerning all 6 mock exams. And as per our study process, I mentioned the fact that our study process is divided into 3 main elements. We are supposed to practice, learn, and revise. In terms of learning and revision, the best resource at your disposal are these answer plans. I'm going to conduct a masterclass based on these answer plans. Then you'd realize how effective these answer plans are when it comes to conducting revision, and also when it comes to learning theory and application. So the value course is priced at just £199. You can click on either of these buttons to invest on your preferred course. And some of you are sticking to our original 8-week study plan. If so, let's try to figure out what we are supposed to achieve within this week. So we are in week number 5, and within this week, we are supposed to master mock number 4 by sticking to the same 3-step process. Practice mock number 4 under exam conditions to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. Then read through the answer plans to learn theory and application, and then revise by redeveloping answer plans on your own with the intention of cementing your knowledge. And if you are yet to start preparations, you are supposed to stick to this 3.5-week study plan, which I explained a while back. I will be sharing this document, as I mentioned earlier, via the WhatsApp group. All right, so that's what we offer. Then I want to direct your attention towards the discussion of one of our mock exams concerning your F1 syllabus. So before I do so, let me quickly take you through the entire syllabus concerning your F1 pillar, so that you gain an understanding of how, which conceptual elements can be tested at the examination. So let me scroll down to the F1 area. So yeah, so everything concerning financial reporting, which appears within your F1 syllabus, can be tested. So your knowledge concerning IAS 2 inventories, IAS 7 cash flow statements, both the direct and indirect method of developing cash flow statements, IAS 10 events after reporting period, as well as IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment can be tested in various different angles. So before previously I mentioned the fact that activity-based costing can be tested in 4 different angles. Similarly, when you look at IAS 16, it can be tested in 5 different angles. So you need to know how to deal with capitalization of expenses, and after we have capitalized expenses, how to record them within financial statements, how to deal with depreciation, and if the useful economic life of a certain asset changes, again how to amend the depreciation charges. All these things can be tested. And how to deal with disposals, because when we are disposing assets, there's a way in which we should deal with them. And it will you should know how these disposals will impact our financial statements. And also you should know how to deal with revaluations, how to carry out revaluations, and how these revaluations will impact our financial statements. And also your knowledge concerning IFRS 5, non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations can be tested. So in today's masterclass, I'm going to direct your attention towards disposal. And whenever your knowledge concerning disposals are tested, your knowledge concerning IFRS 5 can be tested as well. So in today's question, I'm going to direct your attention towards both these elements, IAS 16's disposal related elements, as well as IFRS 5 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations. And also your knowledge concerning IFRS 16 leases can be tested. Also, your knowledge concerning taxation can be tested. So your general taxation related knowledge, how to compute capital gains taxes, as well as how to deal with international taxation, which also falls in line with what appears within your E1 syllabus, can be tested at your examination. So I said that I'm going to conduct a masterclass focused on one of the questions which we have developed. So in this question, I've covered 3 elements. I said that I've covered disposals as well as IFRS 5. On top of that, I've covered capital gains taxation as well. So after the masterclass, you will gain an in-depth understanding of how to deal with disposals and how to deal with IFRS 5 and how to deal with capital gains taxes. And similarly, your knowledge concerning working capital management can be tested. So you have to have the capability to conduct evaluations concerning receivable days, inventory days, payable days, and cash conversion cycle. You are not supposed to carry out any computations or calculations. All necessary information will be shared with you. Your job as a finance officer is to conduct your evaluations by looking at the facts and figures which are shared with you under each unseen. So concerning the exams which happened in November 2025, when teaching answering and time management techniques, Oops, sorry, not when teaching answering and time management techniques. When conducting the F1 workshop in the previous session, I've explained an exam standard and a pre-scene specific mock concerning working capital ratios. So you can, watch it via our YouTube handle. After this workshop, I'm going to share the link to it via the WhatsApp group. Please go watch the recorded version. Then you'd gain an in-depth understanding of how to tackle a question to do with working capital ratios. So in today's session, I'm going to teach you how to deal with disposals, IFRS 5, as well as capital gains taxes. And similarly, once you watch the previous sessions masterclass, which I've conducted based on working capital management, you'd realize how to tackle this syllabus element as well. And also, you should know how to deal with short-term investment options. If we are predicting cash surpluses, how can we invest these cash surpluses in the short term, as well as if we are predicting any cash deficits, then what type of financing options we should opt to, how to deal with these deficits in the short term. Both these angles can be tested at the examination. So that's your F1 syllabus in a nutshell. Having said that, I want to direct your attention towards one of the questions which I've taken from, I can't remember. Yes, OCS Mock 3. I'm going to direct your attention towards section number 2, OCS Mock 3, section number 2. So before I read through the scenario, let me quickly remind you of the answering technique which I highlighted in the third webinar. So when you are developing your answers, you are supposed to stick to this process. First things first, you are supposed to read through the scenario. When doing so, you are supposed to dedicate 5 minutes of your time in each section. As you know, the total time allocation in each section comes up to 45 minutes in total. So out of these 45 minutes, the first 5 minutes should be dedicated towards reading the scenario. And if you fail to read the entire scenario at least within 7 minutes, then you have to take steps to improve your reading speed. The only way to improve your reading speed is to practice reading. So on a daily basis, dedicate 30 to 60 minutes of your time and read a newspaper. Because if you do not take steps to improve your reading speed, you are going to struggle at your real examination. So read the scenario, that's your first step. Then before you develop the answer plan, you are supposed to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So you are supposed to simplify each requirement in your own words, with the prime intention of, or the prime objective of rather, gaining a clear understanding of what you are expected to achieve when developing answers. Most students end up failing the exam because they misunderstand the requirement. Just because you see IAS 16 property, plant and equipment in the requirement, students think that, okay, I'm supposed to explain IAS 16 PPE. However, if the question is about disposals, instead of explaining how to deal with a disposal, if you are explaining property IAS 16 PPE, you are not going to get any marks. So it's essential that you gain an in-depth understanding of what each requirement is. That is why you are supposed to simplify each requirement in your own words, with the prime objective of gaining a clear understanding of each requirement. When you understand the requirement clearly, you will end up developing an answer which is totally aligned with the requirement. If so, you will gain good marks at your exam. So that's the second step as per our answering technique. And the third step is to develop headings and subheadings. So if there are 2 subtasks within a section, then you need to come up with 2 main headings, and each main heading should be in bold and underlined format. And if there are 3 subtasks, then you are supposed to come up with 3 main headings. And again, each main heading should be in bold and underlined format. And if you feel that you want to fraction out your answers, then you can use subheadings as well. And each subheading should be in bold format. Do not number or name the sections, because the examiner tries to replicate a real-life corporate environment. In a real-life corporate environment, you will only utilize headings and subheadings to demarcate sections. You won't mention a section number or a question number and whatnot. So if you look at how we should structure your answers, this is the suggested answer. As you can see, there are 3 subtasks within this section. So for the first subtask, I've come up with a main heading, which is in bold and underline format. And in it, I've come up with a subheading as well. And clearly, the subheading is in bold format. And I've come up with another subheading again in bold format. And this is my answer for the second subtask. The heading is in bold and underline format. And within the second subtask, I've utilized subheadings, which are in bold format. You can see it clearly in here. And focused on the third subtask, again, I've come up with a main heading, which is in bold and underline format. I've never named or numbered each subtask. Instead, I've simply used a main heading. All right, so that's exactly what you're supposed to do when attempting your mocks under exam conditions. And once you have developed headings and subheadings, then you should focus your attention towards developing the answer plans. And when doing so, you should dedicate 20 minutes of your time to develop the answer plan, covering all subtasks which appear within a section. When you are trying to do this for the first time, although I'm asking you to develop the answer plans focused on all subtasks within just 20 minutes, you are definitely going to run out of time. That's quite all right. Even if you run out of time, stick to this answering technique. Try to plan your answers, because when you practice this technique, by the time you are in mock number 4, you will get your bearings with this technique. So you will have the capability to develop answer plans within just 20 to 25 minutes, covering the entire section. All right. So practice this technique. And, before you start to develop the answer plan, you are supposed to understand how many points you need to include under each and every subtask. So based on the weightages provided, you are supposed to determine mark allocations. So each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So the weightages are highlighted in each and every subtask. As you can see, the weightage provided for subtask A is 30%. The weightage provided for subtask B is 40%, and weightage provided for subtask 3 is again 30%. So there are 3 subtasks within this question. Let me scroll up. So we are in section number 2. There are 3 subtasks. Subtask A carries a weightage of 30%, subtask B 40%, and subtask 3 30%. That's exactly what you can see here: 30%, 40%, and 30%. So as you know, each section carries a total mark allocation of 37.5 marks each. So 37.5 marks, 30% of 37.5 marks come up to 11 marks in total. 40% of 37.5 marks come up to 15 marks in total. And 30% of 37.5 marks again come up to 11 marks or 11.5 marks in total. So now, based on the weightages, you have determined the mark allocations. And as I mentioned earlier, each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So if you are to score 11 marks, you need to understand how many points you need to include in your answer. So divide 11 by 3, you will get an answer which is 3.6, or we can round it up to 4. And again, divide 11 by 2, then you get an answer which is 5.5, or you can round it up to 6. So if you include 4 to 6 valid points concerning subtask A, you are going to get full marks. So based on the weightages, determine mark allocations. Once you know the mark allocations, divide it by 2, and again divide the marks by 3. When you divide 11 by 2, you get an answer which is 4. When you divide 11 by 3, you get an answer which is 6. So if you include 4 to 6 valid points under subtask A, you are going to get full marks for the first subtask. So let's look at the second subtask. The mark allocation is 15 marks. So as you know, each valid point carry 2 or 3 marks. So divide 15 by 3, you get an answer which is 5. And again, divide 15 by 2, you get an answer which is 7.5, or you can round it up to 8. So if you include 5 to 8 valid points under subtask B, you are going to gain the full 15 marks. So you are supposed to determine how many points you should include in your answer by looking at the mark allocations. Once you have determined the number of points you should include, then you should proceed towards developing the answer plan. And when developing the answer plan, your objective is to come up with a structure. So when it comes to planning, don't come up with sentences and sentences of answers, or paragraphs and paragraphs of answers. Instead, come up with simple bullet points, because your objective is to plan what type of points you should include in your answer. Once you're done with it, the remaining 15 to 20 minutes of your time should be dedicated towards expanding the answer plan in paragraph form. So therefore, you are supposed to develop a paragraph per answer point. Don't write the entire answer in one single paragraph. Assist the marker, because when you divide paragraphs, when you develop a paragraph per answer point, the marker can easily count and see how many points you have included in your answer, and out of these points, which are accurate or which are inaccurate. So the marker can easily allocate marks. When this is the case, you will be in the good books of the marker. It's best to be in the good books of your marker, because let's assume you scored 77 or 78 once the marker has finalized the marks. If you are on the good books, the marker might give you the additional 2 or 3 marks. All right, so stick to this process. I've explained this process, the answer planning technique in depth in the 3rd webinar. If you missed it, please go watch it, so that you'd gain a sound understanding of how you should structure your answers appropriately, and what type of a technique you need to adopt when it comes to developing your answers. So in this session, I just explained all these elements in a nutshell. All right, so let's look at how you should do all these things. So we are in section number 2. The time allocation is 45 minutes. I'm going to direct your attention towards the second subtask. So the first subtask is focused on we are purchasing a new pressing machine, and there are some costs tied to this investment. We are supposed to explain how we are supposed to capitalize this expenditure, which falls under IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. I'm not going to take you through this question, because it's quite easy. I want to direct your attention towards one of the harder questions concerning IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. To fund the investment on new machines, we will have to sell some of our equipment used in Reland on 31st December 2025 for $355,000. So we are trying to purchase new machines, and in order to fund this initiative, we are trying to sell some of our old equipment, which amounts to $355,000. So if you look at our financial statements, the value of these old equipment come up to $355,000 as per 31st December 2025. We purchased this equipment outright sometime back for $350,000. So we have purchased this equipment for $350,000. And when you look at our financial statements, the value appears as $355,000, which indicates the fact that the value had increased. There's no reason as to why this has occurred, but we are simply supposed to utilize the information presented to you. And the carrying value of the date of disposal is $250,000. So the carrying value is $350,000. All right, I need you to prepare a briefing paper which describes how the disposal of equipment will affect the tax charge for the year and our financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2026. As you know, as per your pre-scene, SumTrix's financial year end is the 30th June of each year. So you are supposed to highlight how these disposals are going to impact the financial statements as at 30th June 2026 and how it will impact our tax charge. So this question is divided into 2 main parts. You are supposed to explain how these disposals are going to impact our financial statements, and also highlight how it will impact our tax charge. So I've read through the scenario, which is the first step. Then you are supposed to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner with the prime intention of gaining a clear understanding of what you are expected to achieve. So that's exactly what you can see here. Disposal of equipment versus tax charge and how it impacts our financial statement. So these are the 2 elements. When you simplify the requirement, you can clearly see what you are expected to cover in your answer. So in your answer, if you have to score full marks, you need to cover two angles. Angle number one is to deal with disposals, you have to explain how it impacts our financial statements, and how to deal with the tax charge concerning these disposals. So that's a second step. And then you are supposed to develop appropriate headings and subheadings. So I've come up with a heading which goes as this. Let me scroll down to the answer, or the answer plan rather. I've come up with a main heading which goes as disposal of equipment, which is in bold and underlined format. This is my main heading. And also I've come up with two separate subheadings focused on the two separate elements which I need to cover in my answer. So you should talk about how these disposals are going to impact the financial statements. So focused on this element, I've come up with a subheading. And again, you should also talk about how these disposals will impact our tax charge. Focused on the second element, I've come up with another subheading. So I've come up with the main headings and subheadings, and then you are supposed to develop the answer plan. And when doing so, you are supposed to dedicate 20 minutes of your time. And when developing answer plans, always remember you are supposed to develop the answer plans covering all subtasks which appear within a section. I do not have time to take you through the entire answer. Therefore, I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the second subtask, or subtask B. All right, so let's look at how you should approach this type of a question. So first things first, let's look at how this disposal is going to impact our financial statements. So when we are opting for disposal, always look at the dates which are shared with you. So as per our financial statements as at 31st December 2025, these equipment, the value of this equipment come up to 355,000, and we are supposed to, we are trying to dispose them on the same date. However, our financial statements developed concerning 30th June 2026. So from the date of disposal until the financial statements are developed, there's a 6-month period. So we are trying to dispose of these assets within just 6 months. However, when trying to do so, some assets might remain unsold by the year end, because it's not too easy to get rid of all these equipment within just 6 months. We might take more time. We might need more time to dispose of all these assets. So when we are disposing our assets, some assets will be remained unsold by the year end. If so, IFRS 5 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations should be considered. So when you are dealing with disposals, since we are planning to dispose of these assets within just 6 months, some assets might remain unsold by the financial year end, by the 30th of June 2026. Therefore, if we have some unsold assets, then IFRS 5 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations should be considered. And therefore, if some assets remain unsold, these assets should be reclassified as assets held for sale. And when it comes to this reclassification, we are supposed to fulfill 3 main requirements as per IFRS 5. These assets should be available for immediate sale. As per the scenario, that is exactly the case, because we are trying to get rid of them as soon as possible. Why? Because we are trying to generate some money to fund the investments tied to new asset purchases. We are trying to purchase new machines or equipment. That is why we are trying to sell these old equipment. So these assets are available for immediate sale, and the assets are sold in its present condition. There is no mention within the scenario which indicates the fact that we are trying to modify these assets. Instead, we are simply trying to sell them as it is. So the assets are in its present condition, and the sale should be highly probable as well. And as per IFRS 5, in order to determine whether the sale is highly probable or not, we are supposed to look at these different elements. The management should be committed to sell these assets. As per the scenario, that seems to be the case, because as I mentioned earlier, we are trying to fund the purchase of new equipment by selling these assets. An active program should be carried out to find a buyer. this is highly probable because we are trying to sell them as soon as possible, and these assets should be marketed at a reasonable price. The reasonableness of the price is dependent on various different elements. So if you are to think in terms of whether the price is reasonable or not, the examiner should have mentioned the value of similar assets in the market. Since there is no mention about it, you need not worry about the reasonableness of the price we are charging for these assets when we are selling them. And the sale is expected to happen within the next 12 months. We are trying to get rid of them within 6 months. So definitely we are going to sell them within the next 12 months. And it is unlikely that the plan to sell the assets will change. We can assume that the plan to sell these assets will not change, given the fact that we are selling these assets to fund the purchase of new equipment or new assets. So when we fulfill all these requirements, you can safely state that the sale is highly probable. So when you fulfill these three requirements, as per IFRS 5, you can classify these assets as assets held for sale. And how should you value such assets which are held for sale? You should consider the lower of the current value and the fair value, less costs to sell. So you should consider both the current value of these assets as well as the fair value of these assets and go for the lower figure. Let's assume the current value of these assets is $100,000 and the fair value is $150,000. Then out of these two figures, 100,000 and 150,000, 100,000 is the least amount. So you should consider the least amount, lower of carrying value and fair value. And from it, you should deduct the costs which we incur to sell these assets, because in order to sell these assets, we might have to put up advertisements. And on top of that, we might have to handle transportation from our end. So all these types of costs which are tied to this asset sale should be deducted from the valuation of these assets. And the asset is therefore, these type of assets which are reclassified are therefore reclassified under current assets. Why is this the case? Because if you look at the demarcation between current and non-current assets, non-current assets are the type of assets which will generate us returns for more than one accounting period. So if we are holding on to some assets, or if we had invested on some assets which will generate us returns for more than one accounting period, which means that these assets will generate income for us beyond 12 months. These type of assets are considered as non-current assets. However, these are disposals. We are trying to dispose of these assets. When this is the case, we are trying to dispose of them within 12 months. That is why we are supposed to reclassify them as assets held for sale. So these assets held for sale, since we do not intend to hold on to them for more than a single accounting period or for more than 12 months and generate returns, instead, we are trying to get rid of these assets within just 12 months. These assets should be reclassified as current assets, because within just 12 months, we are trying to get rid of them and generate cash via these disposals. Because as I mentioned earlier, as per IFRS 5, if some assets are held unsold by the year end, you should reclassify these assets as assets held for sale. And if you are to reclassify them, you have to fulfill these three requirements. And out of these three requirements, the third requirement is the fact that you have to check whether the sale is highly probable or not. And one demarcation of the probability of the sale is the fact that the sale is expected to happen within 12 months. So we are trying to, if we reclassify, we should sell these assets within 12 months. When we sell these assets within 12 months, we are not going to hold on to these assets and generate returns extending one accounting period. Such assets cannot be considered as non-current assets. Instead, we have to reclassify these assets which are held for sale as current assets. And therefore, as you know, current assets should not be depreciated. We only depreciate non-current asset. And given the reclassification, we should not depreciate the assets after they are reclassified. So in a nutshell, what you need to understand is when we are trying to sell our assets, Some will remain unsold by the year end, because as per our financial year end, we are supposed to get rid of these assets within just 6 months. We might not be successful to sell all of these old equipment. If some assets remain unsold, they should be reclassified as assets held for sale as per IFRS 5. And this reclassification is based on 3 main elements. We have to check whether we have fulfilled these 3 elements. And if we had fulfilled these 3 elements, then IFRS 5 says that or explains as to how we should value these assets. I've mentioned it in here. And again, IFRS 5 indicates that these type of assets should be reclassified under current assets, because we do not intend to hold on to these assets for more than 12 months. Because if you hold on to these assets for more than 12 months, the sale is not really probable. If that is the case, we cannot consider these assets under IFRS 5, or we cannot reclassify these assets as assets held for sale. And once we consider them, these assets held for sale, as current assets, we should not depreciate these assets, because you are not supposed to depreciate current assets. You are only supposed to depreciate non-current assets as per IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. So that's how you are supposed to deal with certain assets which remain unsold at the financial year end. And sometimes all assets might be disposed at the year end. You have to look at this angle as well. So we looked at an angle in which some assets might remain unsold. If so, you are supposed to utilize IFRS 5. Alternatively, if we end up selling all these assets by the year end, you should know how to deal with these disposals. So we have to depreciate these assets until the date of disposal. Until we dispose of all these equipment, we have to keep depreciating each equipment as per IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. And as per the numbers provided in your unseen, there appears to be a profit on disposal which comes up to $105,000. Why am I saying this? Because this the asset value is $355,000, and we are trying to dispose of these assets at $250,000. So sorry. Yes, so the value of these assets come up to $355,000. And the carrying value at the date of disposal is $250,000. So on our financial statements, it appears the value of these assets appear as $250,000. Whereas if we sell, we are going to generate $355,000. So $250,000 minus $355,000, we are going to benefit or we are going to generate a profit by disposing these assets, which come up to $105,000. All right. So there's a profit on disposal, and this profit on disposal should be recognized in our statement of profit and loss as disposal proceeds. So we are poised to make, if these numbers are accurate, we are poised to make a profit which amounts to $105,000, and these type of profits should ideally appear within our statement of profit and loss. So we are making a profit. This profit should appear as profit on disposal within our statement of profit and loss. And how should we deal with the asset when we, so this is with the assumption about the fact that we are disposing all of our assets by the financial year end. So the asset value or the carrying value which appears within our statement of financial position or the balance sheet is $250,000. And if we sell these assets, this $250,000 asset should be derecognized from our statement of financial position. So we should take this $250,000 off our statement of financial position. And also, in terms of the proceeds which we make from this disposal, which comes up to $355,000 in total, these cash proceeds should be recognized in the statement of cash flow as proceeds from the sale of property, plant, and equipment. So if we dispose of all the assets, you have to think about depreciation. You have to depreciate all assets until we dispose them. And also you have to think about the profit. If there's a profit on disposal, it should appear within our SOPL. And alternatively, if there's a loss, in terms of the disposal, again, it should appear within the SOPL. And once we dispose of all the assets should be derecognized or taken off our non-current asset figure, which appears within our statement of financial position. And also the cash which we make, or the proceeds from this disposal, should be recognized in the statement of cash flows under proceeds from sale of property, plant, and equipment. All right, so I've considered both angles. If some assets remain unsold by the year end, you are supposed to consider IFRS 5, non-current asset sale for sale and discontinued operation. I've mentioned as to how to deal with this as per IFRS 5. And also, if all assets are disposed at the year end, I've mentioned how we should deal with the money, the profits, as well as the derecognition of the asset value from our statement of financial position. So that's the first part of your answer. And secondly, you are supposed to also talk about how this disposal is going to impact our tax charge. So the sale of equipment exposes us to a capital gain. Why am I saying this? Because we are going to make a profit amounting to $105,000. The carrying value as per our financial statements is $250,000, whereas we are supposed to sell them at $355,000, thereby making a profit of $105,000. So this leads to a capital gain, and you should know how to deal with these capital gains. So as per the pre-scene, within Reland, the corporate tax rate is 25%, and this same corporate tax rate should be considered when computing the capital gains tax. And you have mentioned which rate we are supposed to consider when computing this, and then you are supposed to explain how to compute the capital gain. So the capital gain comprises of the sales proceeds, which come out to $355,000. From it, you have to reduce the original cost. We purchased these equipment sometime back for our dollars, $350,000. So when we purchased these equipment, we purchased them for $350,000, and we are trying to sell them at $355,000. So the capital gain is just $5,000. From this figure, we should also deduct tax depreciation from the date of purchase until the date of sale. And as per your pre-scene, tax depreciation, which is available for companies within Reland, is at 25% reducing balance basis. And this 25% reducing balance basis tax depreciation should be used concerning the original cost of the asset, which used to be $350,000. All right, so that's how you're supposed to compute the capital gain. You're supposed to consider sales proceed. From that, deduct the original cost. From that, deduct the tax depreciation. Then you will arrive at the capital gain, which is tied to, or the capital gains tax, which is tied to this disposal. All right, so once you have developed the answer plan, the final step as per our answering technique is to expand the answer plan, thereby developing a paragraph per answer point. So that's exactly what you can see in here. Disposal of equipment, and you see that I've come up with various different paragraphs, and impact on concerning the answer concerning the second element, impact on tax charge. Again, I've come up with various different paragraphs based on the number of points which I've highlighted. So your final answer should look something like this. This is your answer structure. This is your answer plan. You are supposed to develop something like this when you are planning your answer, but this should not be your final answer. Your final answer should look something like this, which should be in paragraph form. So as I mentioned earlier, you are supposed to stick to a 3-step approach when practicing or when conducting revision focused on each mock exam. So as the first step, practice under exam conditions with the prime intention of practicing or answering time management and stress management techniques. And the second step is to learn. You can easily learn by looking at these points rather than you having to go through pages and pages of suggested answers. You can easily figure out what type of points you should include to gain full marks for this type of a question. So when you have this at your disposal, you can easily see the number of points you should include and what should be contained within each point. And if you memorize these points, especially concerning F1 related questions, it's highly technical. If you know how to approach each IAS or IFRS, if you know the exact points you should include under each IAS or IFRS, you can get full marks for F1 related questions. So if you write the same points at your examination, only differing in terms of application because the numbers will be different, but everything else will be the same. So if you cover the exact same points in your examination, you are going to get full marks. All right. And once you have understood, once you have learned theory and application by reading through these answer plans, then take steps to redevelop answer plans on your own. Keep TCS's answer plans aside and try to develop answer plans on your own. Once you have developed your own answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCS's to further refine your understanding and gain an understanding of your shortcomings. By conducting revision in this manner, you can overcome your shortcomings, strengthen your understanding, and if you mention the same type of points at your exam, you are going to get full marks. So that is why our students ended up scoring more than 100 marks when the pass mark was just 80. So I'm happy to say that almost all our students ended up scoring more than 100 marks, and the best performer concerning the exams which happened in November 2025 was Brad, who ended up scoring 119 marks when the pass mark was just 80. So this individual, just like you, came through FLP, started preparations just 3 weeks before the exam, and ended up scoring 119. You can achieve you can achieve a similar outcome if you stick to this study plan, which I've explained, which I'm going to share with you in a little while via the WhatsApp group. All right. So having said that, I'm moving to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can switch on your mic and talk or drop a message via the chat. It's up to you. It's actually time for you to ask all your questions. I think some questions have come through. One of you is asking, are we able to write mock number 1 twice? No, unfortunately not, because the objective of attempting mocks under exam conditions is to practice your answering time management and stress management techniques. And if you really want to reattempt a mock exam, there's no point of reattempting a mock under exam conditions. Instead, simply focus your attention towards going through the answer plans and redeveloping answer plans, because this is the most crucial element of your preparatory process. Because as I mentioned earlier, the objective of practicing mocks under real exam conditions is simply to practice your answering time management and stress management. You cannot refine your knowledge and answering technique when operating under exam conditions. Your refinements can be done when you read through these answer plans and take steps to redevelop answer plans. So if you want to reattempt mock number 1, don't waste 3 hours of your time and try to attempt it under exam conditions. Instead, simply read through the answer plans and try to redevelop answer plans on your own. I hope I addressed your concern. Anything else, folks? All right, folks, I hope I addressed all your questions. If you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. Visit our website and click on the contact button and drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or simply drop us an email via info@study@tcs.com. Or if you need instantaneous and personalized support, drop us a message on this WhatsApp number. And I urge you to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok. Via YouTube, you would gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops which we have conducted. And also via TikTok, you would gain access to 6 videos. And on a daily basis, on your way to office, for instance, keep watching these 6 TikTok videos with the prime intention of reminding yourself of the most important points highlighted within the pre-scene. and focused on the same video, we have developed a separate PDF, thereby developing a mind map, which is focused on your pre-scene, which is focused on SumTrix, and go through this mind map on a daily basis as well to constantly keep yourself reminded of the most important points highlighted within your pre-scene. And if you're yet to read the blog post, click on the blog page and read through this blog post, which we have developed concerning SumTrix. And having said that, it brings us to the end of the masterclass which we have conducted concerning your F1 syllabus. I hope you gained something out of this session, and I hope you understood what you need to do to pass in the upcoming examination. Simply stick to the 3-step process which I highlighted. Stick to this study plan and stick to the 3-step process when mastering each of our mock exam, which is the only way to improve your knowledge, improve your application skills. And when you take steps to improve your knowledge, application skills, and your skill set, you are definitely going to score extremely good marks at your exam. So you have enough and more time. If you start from Monday, at least by Monday, start your preparations so that you can complete all 6 mock exams and conduct revision focused on the same 6 mock exams. So thank you very much for joining. I'll see you guys next week, in which I'm going to direct your attention towards the P1 syllabus and also conduct a masterclass focused on one of the questions which I've included within one of our 6 mock exams. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next week. And I hope you will start your preparations and stick to the study plans which we have shared with you.